All right, class, first off, as always, good day. So today, this video is going to be um, about, again, the forms of government, but now we're going to go a little bit more in depth. Now, before the first video, we were talking about um, as time went on, from the beginning of time till sometime in the 15th, 16th century, um, and through the philosophy of some people. Now we're going to get into more modern times, more modern things. So before we begin, here's your warm-up picture. Um, for those of you guys who had me in government last semester, you may remember this warm-up picture. This one is, again, one of my all-time favorites. It's, again, the drawing is not that great, but the message that it's trying to send is, in my opinion, very profound, just amazing. So let me move this video picture. There we go. Let me move this up here so you can see everything on the bottom. So again, what do you see? All right, and I believe I put something like three or four things that you see. Guys, it should not be that hard with this one. There's plenty of things that you can see, a lot of things written down. Um, and then there's the second question. So go ahead, answer that. Now, once you're done, prepare for the questions. Again, I've said this already several weeks, but I'm going to say it again. If you have a computer or a laptop, what I would suggest is you basically take it off full screen and put it like as half your screen, and then take the worksheet and make that the other half. So as you're listening to this video, you can see the questions to the side, and then as you're reading the questions, you can, now I'm going through the lecture, you can say like, okay, there it is, and then, go ahead and write that stuff out. Okay. So here we go. We're moving on in three, two, one. Okay, so here's the thing. In government, there are basically three major types of government. There's autocracy, oligopoly, oligarchy, and democracy. All right. Now, autocracy, it's a system of government where the power and authority rests within one person. So again, it's just one person who controls everything. Okay. Now here's the thing. There's a term also under this. It's called absolute or totalitarian dictatorship. Basically it's the same thing. It's just the leader is quote unquote glorified. They're seen as the savior. They're seen as the one and only type of thing. Okay. Are they really? No, no. They're just men. You know. But they want that for their ego in a sense, kind of like, I'm Chingon. I'm the top guy around here. That type of stuff. So again, totalitarian dictatorship. That's part of autocracy, which is ruled by one person. Um, Monarch. Okay, now this is monarch's a little bit interesting. Because here's the thing: it's usually ran by a king or queen or emperor. Okay, so again, usually by one person. Um, but the thing is, the king and queen sometimes they do not have like complete control, but they have majority of it, which would be enough. So it's like, yeah, someone else can complain. Somebody else who has some power, maybe a voice of opposition, but still it goes to the king or queen. So, their voice carries more. So yeah, it still technically is an autocracy because they ultimately have the last word. There's two types of autocracies or monarchies. I'm sorry. There's absolute monarchies, which is, again, the king or queen have absolute control. There is no ands or buts about it. It's them. Then there's the constitutional monarchs, in which they share power with an elected legislature, by the people or by ceremonial leaders. Now, some countries nowadays that have king or queens, some of them have this, a constitution where they have like a prime minister. somebody who has the power, either 50% or more than the king or queen, but they still have the king or queen, then they're used for kind of like decorations in a sense. So that's the thing. Okay. So again, when it comes to kings and queens, there's absolute, which means they rule everything, or there's a constitutional monarch in which the people have a voice, you know. Okay. All right, now we go to oligarchy. Now, oligarchy is a system of government where it's only ran by a small group or a few people. Okay. Now, you guys have heard me use this term kind of sort of in economics called oligopoly. Remember, we talked about monopolies, oligopolies, things like that. Um, this is the same thing basically. It's ran by a few people or a small group. Their power comes from different sources. So it can either come from wealth, it can come from military strength, military power, social status, you know, or it can be a combination of one, two, or, all three of them, Uh, so, aristocracy is basically a rule by nobility. You are from an old family from this country, and oh, you are destined to rule. You are the top people. That kind of stuff. That's an aristocracy. Okay. These people who think that because their family is old, because they have money or whatever, they think that their, you know, stuff don't stink. We know better. But the thing is, in their form of government, because their family is rich, because they have wealth, because they have an old family, you know, that they have a higher status than everyone else. Plutocracy is basically now wealth. That's no ands if or buts about it. It's just wealth. So basically, whoever has the most money controls the country. That's how it goes. Whereas aristocracy could be either one. You know, it could, again, like I said, wealth and the small family, the old family type of thing. Whereas plutocracy is straight up wealth. There's no answer. It's just that you have money. How much? Ooh, Ted's family over there has more money. So, you know, we're gonna listen to Ted's family. Okay. Now, governments like the autocracies and oligarchies, they claim, they really do claim to be for the people. And I mean, they'll say all the good things, all the right points, the thing that people want to hear, but really, it's an illusion. Okay. All the laws that are going to be passed is to help them. All the tax codes and things like that are going to help the older families, the richer families, things like that. Um, they are not for the average Joe, the average person. They could really care less. Okay, so that's the thing. And again, whatever laws are passed through like the Congress and things like that, it's usually whatever the ruler wants. Those people who are in the Congress, who are in the legislature, they've been bought and paid for, and all these upper people have to do is say, go in there and go, hey, remember who you're getting your money from. You know, that's it. That's all it takes. Now, democracy, it's a form of government in which they are ruled by the people. Now, the word democracy really comes from the Greeks. Demos, which means the people, and kratia, which means to rule. So, democracy, demos kratia, okay, means the people rule. Okay. Now, there's two forms of democracy. Okay, there's direct democracy. Now, this one's interesting because the thing is, the people govern themselves and they vote on issues themselves. So instead of these senators and House of Representative members and so that voting on issues like should we give money to you know Haiti for the hurricane relief and things like that, um, so instead of them voting, we would get a ballot. and we would cast our vote. Okay. The There would be no representatives, things like that. But here's the problem with that. Direct democracy is good. Don't get me wrong, it is good. But the problem is when you have a large country, there is no way you can get everyone to vote, you know. And then, of course, you're going to have those people that, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to vote on that today, you know, that kind of stuff. And then they're going to get mad, that, oh, well, my vote doesn't count then, So that's the problem with big countries is direct democracy will not work because, especially think of it like this, imagine trying to get everyone to vote on something back in like the 1820s, you know, right when we're expanding here to the West Coast and an issue comes up in Washington and they send out the ballot, send out the information to us. By the time it comes to the people and they have the time to vote, let's say they vote right away, they read it, takes a day, it's a long time before word gets back. So that's time delayed that might have costed them, you know. That's why we have this one. It's a representative democracy. Now, representative democracy means that we, the people, there's too much of us, right? For direct democracy. So what we do is we elect somebody to vote for us, to represent us. Um, that's the thing with this. They are supposed to represent us. Now, do they really? Kind of, sort of, they do. Kind of, sort of, they don't. It's still, they take their own bias, things like that. And again, that's part of the human error in this whole thing. But still, it's one of the best things. Um, Again, people elect representatives to give them the power to make laws, conduct the government, things like that. Um, the different forms of these representative government. We got council, we got legislature, we got Congress, and we got parliament, which is basically like our Congress, same thing with Parliament. Okay. So again, direct means you directly put your vote. Representative is you vote for somebody to represent you. Okay. All right. So I put on here which form of government do you believe is the best if you're a common person? Would which form? Would it be autocracy, oligarchy, or would it be democracy? Okay. Now, this next one, I was like thinking, okay, let me get you on this. Which one do you think would be best if you were a rich person? Now, we did mention it, one that was really good for rich people. So you may want to pause this video, go back a little bit, and look on that. Okay. And explain why. Explain why you feel that one would be the best. Again, it's your opinion, guys. So feel free to don't just put like, you know, autocracy. Well, which one? Which autocracy? Oligarchy. Well, which form of oligarchy? Democracy. Which form of democracy? Don't just put the branch, the top one, the branch ones. They splinter off. The splinter is what I'm looking for. Those are the answers I'm looking for. Okay. So hopefully you didn't just stop this video and then just go over it to wait for me to stop talking. Like I know some of you guys do. All right. So really tell me, what do you think and why? Okay. We're going to be moving on to the next part of notes in 3, 2, 1. All right. So here's the thing. Voters are the source of government power. Let me say that again. Voters are the source of government's power. All right. When a government is formed, they are not all powerful. They rely on you, the people, to keep them going. You have to remember, in our Constitution, the United States Constitution, we give them the right to do things. We limit them, on stuff they can and cannot do. Okay. We do that. Okay. When a politician does something that we do not agree with, we can recall them. If the president, even the president, does something we don't like, we can recall them. You know, um, it's just that under our form of government, it has to be a majority. Okay, but still, the people have the power, not one person, not one branch, not one form of government is going to last forever if the people don't want it. Okay, now representative democracy, democracy and constitutional democracy, or sorry, constitutional republic, are basically the same thing, right? That's what we have. We, the United States, have a constitutional republic. Right now, here's a picture over here representing. There's democracy, there's dictatorship, there's republic, uh, aristocracy, monarchy, and anarchy. I like that one because what is anarchy? That's no government at all. And what do you see those people doing? Beating up people, some of them, playing like King of the Mountain sort of thing, and one person on the bottom just either losing faith or something, but they're right there. Okay. Now, it's a system of limited government, republic we're talking about. Uh, it's a system of limited government where the people are the ultimate source of the government's authority. They cannot do something without us. So if they, I mean, if they truly did something that really, really ticked off the American people, like almost everyone agreed with, we have the power to say no. Even if our representatives voted for something, we have the power to say no. But under our Constitution, they put it so that we have to be sure we're voting for the people, the representative we want to represent us. Okay, and that one makes it things a little bit harder. Okay, now we're going to be talking about this a little bit more when we get into the U.S. Constitution, but it's just I want you to know, as citizens of this country, is there something that a lot of Americans do not feel is right? Over half of them, three-quarters of them, feel something is wrong and they don't agree with the government. They have the right to stop it. Okay. Now here's the thing: not every single democracy is a republic. Okay. England is a democracy, but they're not a republic. Um, they are a constitutional monarch. Again, like I told you, they have a prime minister. They still have the royal family. They don't have much power. They really don't. That's the prime minister job. And again, that's because of their constitution. But they still have the royal family. The royal family gets to do things, things like that. So again, not every democracy is a republic. Okay, so here's the thing. In a democracy, the majority rules. Always. Okay? How much depends. Sometimes it's a simple majority, which is 51%. Sometimes it's truly majority, which is two-thirds. Um, in the United States, due to the Constitution, it prevents any tyranny of the majority. Okay, so just because the majority rules on something doesn't mean that they can always get what they want, because they can't subdue your rights as citizens, which we're going to be talking about later when we talk about the Federalist and Anti-Federalist. How they basically realize, man, if you give the government too much power, they can take advantage of the poor people, and how to prevent the upper people to constantly keep the lower people under their thumb. Again, the Constitution protects the rights of not only the majority but also the minority. Okay, so again, your rights are protected. Again, we will go more in depth on this when we talk about the Constitution, which will be about next week or a week and a half. But with that being said, there have been a couple times where minority rights were taken away due to national security. Now, there's two examples. One of them, it hurts me saying this, but April 27th, 1861. You guys know me, how I love Lincoln and everything, but Lincoln actually went against the law. He suspended the right of habeas corpus. All right. for Southern sympathizers in the Maryland and Pennsylvania. Now, the thing is, habeas corpus, it's a right I mean, a lot of people have had since like the 12th century, you know. Basically, it's when a person's under arrest, basically you're brought before a judge or and you go to court and they basically say, okay, what was the crime? It's murder. Well, yeah, no, keep him in jail. If it's something like, oh, jaywalking, they accidentally got into a fight. Okay, so you're not really harmed, so we'll release you out on bail, things like that. Um, and they can't really detain you unless you truly are a threat, or they think you're gonna skip out of town, things like that. Um, there has to be a lawful ground that shows that you and, well, mainly society is safer with you still locked up before your trial comes up. What Lincoln did was take that right away, so when they arrested somebody, they could keep them in jail for as long as they wanted. Okay, that's where it gets bad. In this country, you don't do that. Another one happened on February 19th, 1942. It's called Executive Order 9066. This is the Japanese internment um, executive order. Basically, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, a lot of Americans were scared because they didn't know uh, like what was going to happen next. The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. They did two waves. We now know there was supposed to be a third wave, but they called it off, and Americans were caught off guard. And so what happened was, um, they didn't. There was rumors going around saying that there's Japanese spies, and Pearl Harbor was actually like one of the only military bases around on the West Coast. You know, they didn't have any airfields. They didn't have any, National Guard posts nearby on the West Coast. I believe the nearest one was actually like in Kansas or something like that. So they were afraid that the Japanese, some Japanese spies were on the West Coast telling the other Japanese people, oh yeah, yeah, there's no soldiers here. You can come on this time through this port, through this beach or whatever, and you can invade the United States. And so to prevent that, FDR put up this order, which they got Japanese Americans, basically forced them into train cars and sent them out west, um, basically to like a desert area. These relocation camps. These people had to remember, a lot of these guys are American citizens. A lot of them. I mean, I think almost all of them were American citizens, and they basically had to get up and move. They lost their jobs, they lost their homes, they really couldn't take much possessions, so they had to like leave like everything behind, and they lost everything. Uh, and mainly because Americans were not trustworthy of Japanese Americans, and they saw them as, oh, you're probably disloyal to this country. Oh, you might tell this spy, tell your spy friends what's going on here, and they were scrutinized and they were looked at. Um, Now, some people say FDR did this to protect the Japanese Americans from being harmed and things like that, but in reality, it was more likely to kind of prevent or try to stop any type of spying on the United States. Okay. All right. So here is your final question. Between Lincoln's suspension of habeas corpus and the Executive Order 9066, which one do you think was the worst one and why? So, which one do you think really hindered on people's liberties and why? Okay, so go ahead, write it out. Again, I color coded it so you can match where you're supposed to put what. Again, the at the very end, because, and then give your opinion. So which one of these two do you feel is the worst one, and why? Now, again, I would suggest too is that you guys look at these two subjects online. Um, and like I said, I just gave you a little gist. I mean, it's not the whole story, but read up on them because they are both of them pretty horrible. So I want you to pick which one of these two was the worst, in your opinion. Okay. So once you're done, that's it. Make sure you put your name on the worksheets online. Okay, guys. Um, but that's it. All right. So hopefully you guys learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Now here's the thing. Again, we are going to be going into the U.S. Constitution more than likely next week or the following week. Um, but this is where the fun kicks in. And again, like I told you guys before, you guys are almost graduating, okay? And I truly believe down in the deepest part of my heart, the one thing you should know as a citizen in this country is your rights. So when we get to the Bill of Rights, when we get to the amendments, um, we are really going to look at each one and things like that and talk about that. Um, as for the Constitution, we will, again, like I said, we will look on that. But later on, after the amendments, if we have time, we'll go back to that to see the limitations of power for the government. So that way I can show you that, here in this country, yeah, we give power to the government, but not too much. We trust them, but not completely, that type of thing. And I think that's another thing that's important for American citizens to know is what power does the government have and what how are they limited? Okay. So again, hopefully you learned something new. I'll see you guys later. Please, guys, take care. All right, be safe during this time. Okay. And I'll see you guys in class. All right. See you later.